Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest 8-second gaming, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the new mid-season 5 patch tier list for the tanks. There weren't only changes to the tanks, but also other characters in the game that are affecting the tanks as well, so there have been some changes. So let's get into things, but if you guys are looking to take your Overwatch skill to the next level, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches creating the best, most highly informative guides to make you the best player you could possibly be. It doesn't matter what kind of issues you have, because we've already helped a bunch of people hit new peak ranks. So click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today. But okay, let's jump into things. And first up, we have to talk about the changes. And the tank role didn't receive a ton of changes, but the changes that they did receive were extremely impactful. So first up, Wrecking Ball received a small buff, making him reload faster. Reinhardt's shield has also gained a nice 200 health increase, giving him extra survivability for all those engages. Ramatra's Vortex now goes through players but not barriers, meaning you can place it much easier, a nice quality of life change for him. And Orissa's Fortify now gives her 50% damage reduction instead of 40%, and that is absolutely massive. And we can expect this to push her into the meta much harder than before, so now that we know the changes, let's get into the actual tier list. And it might come as a surprise, but we are not putting anyone in the D tier category. The tanks are pretty good right now, there's nobody that really fits into this category, so let's move straight into the C tier. And first up here we have Roadhog. He earns this upgrade regardless of not being buffed due to Kiriko's healing buff, Zenyatta's Discord nerf, and other self-sufficient picks such as Soldier receiving nice buffs. This makes him a bit more viable in the meta. Certainly still not an insane pick, but we believe this makes him a bit more playable. So although still the bottom of the tank tier list, he is looking a little bit better. Now next up we have Doomfist, and he is taking our top C tier spot because not much has really changed for him. He will find the same value he did before, and until a Sombra buff is in place, he likely won't drop down. Sure, we could argue he could be a little bit lower since Orisa is on the rise, but realistically it won't really change a whole lot. He's very straightforward though, so let's move on up into our B tier. And first up, Sigma goes here yet again. He is the same old hero, strong and efficient but very situational. On maps he works on, he does wonders, but those maps are very few, and in the current meta, just like before, he doesn't do too well into the brawl meta, opting to stay far away from enemies and lower their HP and resources before they can get close enough to find high value sustain potential that brawl tanks have. It takes a lot to move Sigma around, although we feel a poke meta could be on the horizon with the way snipers are being changed and brawl tanks are being buffed in ways that make them more survivable but have less damage, which is hinted at by these tank changes. Until we see more changes like this, I don't think there's going to be an A tier spot for Sigma just yet. But now let's move into our next hero, and this is going to be Winston. Monkey is making a big move to the middle of B tier. This is for many reasons, mainly being that Junker Queen is on the decline. Orisa just works so well into her, and even more so with this buff. Reinhardt also finds great value into Junker Queen, and Ramatra is 50-50. That being said, Monkey works well into all the tanks that were buffed, if not flat even with them. And as long as they do well into the Queen, Monkey moves his way up. We still want to see him buffed. It is unlikely we will see a buff for him before we see a nerf for Diva. However, which again, either way, will make his way up into the A tier, but another reason for him moving up now is the fact that Zarya is a sleeper pick. And do not sleep on Zarya. She is potent and feeling stronger by the day as people realize her potential, and since Monkey works so well into her, he goes into our mid B tier spot. Next up though, we have Wrecking Ball, another strong B tier pick that certainly deserves to be put here yet again. He received a nice quality of life change, making his reload a decent bit faster. Unfortunately, this does not affect what happens when you enter or leave ball form, causing you to reload much slower. Still, it's a great quality of life change, but the meta still isn't seeming to change around too much in Ball's favor. We may see that later in the season, but from an individual perspective, he is likely looking at about the same as last time. Not terrible, but not great. B tier is certainly the place for him. And now our highest B tier hero, Reinhardt. He moves up a fair bit from last time as his shield receives a nice buff, making him that much harder to pressure in the pre-fight and making him feel much more horrid to the face in those situations where you either gotta push him or try to break his shield. Ryan has always found a playstyle in the meta that works, unlike some tanks, Roadhog being a great example, yet he never seems to be extremely meta. Still, Ryan will find great value into most matchups. Unfortunately, Orisa's buff halts him from being able to gain A tier, as her play rate will certainly rise as a Reinhardt counter. It's hard to put him much higher. If she wasn't buffed, we absolutely would slap him into the A tier though, so just keep that in mind. But now we can move on into A tier, and our first A tier pick is Junker Queen, and that's super surprising, right? She hasn't received any changes, received minor nerfs previously, and has dropped from the best tank in the game to bottom of A tier. Yeah, well, let's take a look at why this is. A lot of our rating is for an overall comparison into other tanks, and she does not do too great into Diva or Orisa right now, and Ramattra can feel pretty poor to play into at times as well, as your uptime with Shout can be easily weighted out. But into Reinhardt as well, we can see her having a really hard time, and she was mainly so strong because the monkey meta was hitting hard. Now she doesn't have a lot to counter, and most of the time you can really feel like running around doing nothing. Still, Soldier actually works very well with her, and Kiriko does too. Those being buffed is a big plus for her. Still, we want to put her lower on the list than some heroes that we expect to outperform her going forward, so bottom A tier is for her. But next up, we've got to put Zarya. She is a big sleeper pick, as she is incredibly strong regardless of being touched in the patch notes as the meta shifts around. So does she in the tier list, and her climbing higher and higher is no surprise, as we see a rise in play rate and win rate from heroes such as Diva and Orisa. Zarya actually does pretty well into both of them and is still quite playable into Ramattra, Reinhardt, and plays super well into Junker Queen. That being said, she works on all maps that don't have extremely important high grounds, and even then can still work, making her a considerably versatile pick, and it absolutely deserves this A tier spot. Moving into our next hero though, we've got to put Diva here, a super strong tank who will always have a spot in the meta. I mean, we talk about her a lot. She is the most versatile tank in the game, working on all maps and has great synergy with most heroes. You can't really go wrong with her. We mean it quite literally when we say Diva works anywhere, whether you're on Gibraltar, King's Row, even sniper maps such as Circuit. There's absolutely a playstyle that will work. That being said though, she has one of the highest skill ceilings out of the entire tank roster, as on a hero with such great peel potential, you need to understand what's going on at all times in the game, because it's just an absolute must to keep your team alive. Moving forward though, let's talk about our top A tier spot, and that goes to Orisa. She is the one tank that can consistently stop Ramattra, and if it wasn't for her inability to hard carry games by fragging out, we would have absolutely zero issue putting her into the S tier. But as it stands, her kit just isn't designed to be S tier level hero, and for that ranking you have to be able to dominate lobbies. That being said, you will certainly dominate most Ramattras you run into on the field thanks to your ability to hold them back whenever they look to engage with their nemesis form. On top of being able to stop them from sprinting onto your team, stunning them into a wall, or even just hitting them at all with your spear completely opens up their head hitbox and disallows them to block in that form, making them a super big and easy target for your team. Orisa is just so tanky right now, and what else would you want from a tank in a brawl meta? She creates and holds space extremely effectively and counters all of their brawl tanks, her best counters being Winston and Zarya, who both counter in completely different ways, and both can't really completely shut her down, so she is an amazing pick going off for the rest of the season. But now we've finally hit our S tier hero, and yet again we have Ramattra here. Honestly, I'd say we really should nerf them, but no one is really asking for a Ramattra nerf, and I'll tell you why. Ramattra is fun. Playing Ramattra isn't a completely brain dead go forward and smack people regardless of how we make it out to be. He is actually a considerably complex hero that requires a great understanding of when to limit test your kit. That being said, you can certainly adopt a playstyle that requires little to no thinking and still find incredible value. But Ramattra isn't a super oppressive hero. Sure, it is no fun being W keyed on by him, but usually you can whittle it down to not maintaining distance or positioning well if he manages to actually get onto you. And he usually isn't the one picking you off anyway. He is likely just creating the pressure to give his team opportunities to pick you off, which is really the job that you want from a tank. You want them to scare the enemy into a position that the team can then kill them from. But let me know if you would change any of these tiers in the comments down below, and if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Overwatch 2 tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button. Thanks all for watching. Once again, I made game, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But also, if you guys are going to be looking to take your Overwatch skill to the next level, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches, including myself, creating the best, most highly informative guides to make you the best player you can possibly be. No matter what you struggle with, we have the solution for you. So click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today.